All right. Well, everyone has a time constraint, so I want to make sure I'm being respectful. Um, today's talk is about what we can do to help you guys make more money and close more deals. I was about a year ago, I got a call from a realtor, and she just said, Jeff, is there any way you can take a second look at this file? It's about to die. It's a $4.5 million transaction, and I'm acting both on the listing side and the buyer side. So I'm a transaction broker. And what she proceeded to explain was this client was a dear friend of hers as well. She had a home up in the mountains, but found her absolute dream home up in the Grand County area that she wanted to buy. And this was the home. Now, they were about 3 weeks into the transaction, and they got a call from their bank. She went to her bank at first, and they said, "Hey, you don't qualify. Like, your debt to income ratios are too high. You could just maybe pay with cash, maybe get a gift." Well, obviously on a $4.5 million transaction, that's probably not the best thing to hear that day. So she gave me a call, and when we took a look at her file and took her application and jumped right away because we know how critical this was, and we understood why the bank felt the way they did. It was like, yeah, she does not qualify based on traditionally qualifying somebody using like normal jumbo loan programs. She had maybe an 89, 90% what we call debt to income ratio. So what do? We actually took her to one of our non-QM programs. This is our full doc program. So kind of think of it as a near miss type situation where she didn't fit in the box for conventional or traditional, but we wanted to see if she can fit into this box. So with this program, we were able to qualify her, and here were the two things that made the difference. Number one, she was planning to list her home in the next week or two, and in a traditional program, you have to hit them for the full payment on the home. Well, with this program, we were able to omit the full payment on their home in Texas because she was planning to list it. And then the second thing is she had some really unique income where her 2023 income was not good, but her 2024 income was excellent. So she just had some variability of income. And traditionally, the bank she went to would do a 2-year average. Well, in this program, we were able to do a 1-year average using one year's tax returns. So we were able to calculate a much higher rate. And then the final piece is she actually received disability income, and the bank would not, what we call, gross it up when something's not taxed. And that again was about a 75% haircut on her actual income we can give credit for. So we're able to gross that up. As a result, we were able to sneak her in. It was tight, but we got her qualified, and we closed 3 weeks later, and the transaction happened. And that realtor, like, you guys all can do the math. A $4.5 million transaction where you're on both sides of it. That's a nice $250,000+ payday. So this is a big game changer for her. And this is an example of what we're going to talk about today, of how we can say yes to your clients in situations where sometimes it would have been a no traditionally. So most of you know me, but for those that don't, I'm Jeff Aronheim with Cross Country Mortgage. I'll go into a little more about me in a little bit, but I wanted to just start with that story. We're going to spend a little time over, well, why is non-QM a competitive advantage? I'm going to give you a dive on about 5 different programs. There's quite a bit more, but I'm going to give you the ones that are the most important ones that are come up most prevalently. Now, it's nice to know the programs, but what I really want to get to is, okay, now that I'm going to arm you with this information, how do you actually turn this into a profit center for you? How do you market yourself? How do you position yourself? And how do you convert the folks that might have been no to a yes? I'm then going to finish up with just a little about the team, my company and my team, just so you know who we are. And then really what I'm going to ask for you in the end is 2 things. I'm going to ask for you to give me a feedback survey. We would love your honest feedback. If it was great, we want to know that. If there's things I can improve upon, we want to know that as well. And then also, I'd like you to look into scheduling a 30-minute call with me so that we can actually go through your pipeline and identify those potential opportunities that were a no that we may be able to turn into a yes. So why is it important? So first off, before we get into too much detail, I think I'm assuming a few things with QM. So QM stands for qualified mortgage. Non-QM means non-qualified mortgage. And there's a whole background behind it, but I'm going to just explain it very simply of what we consider a qualified mortgage would be a conventional loan, maybe a traditional jumbo loan, FHA and VA. Those are sort of the list of qualified mortgage, conventional financing. Non-QM is the stuff that sits outside of that. I mean, that's what it is in the broadest sense. If we get into Q&A in the end and you want to ask more details around kind of what QM is and non-QM and how it's defined through all the laws and the mortgage meltdown, I'm happy to share more about that with you as well. So I want to talk about like why this is really important to you. And what I want you to walk away with the next slide is this isn't really just about products. This is about the clients you're actually currently leaving on the table. So some of the stats here, which to me are pretty staggering. So we have this is in 2024, 9.8 million self-employed buyers. These are folks that often have they're really good at taking write-offs on their tax returns, and they don't always show a lot of income. They often don't fit into the traditional box. There are 75 million freelancers and gig workers that are projected to grow to 90 million by 2028. So what I'm telling you is there's a huge segment of people that really potentially fall outside of the traditional financing and are going to fall into these programs. The third element is that 11% of all mortgages that we do in our company are non-QM. Now, to give you this kind of the perspective on this, my company is very big. We do 1 out of 43 mortgages in the US are done by my company. So the stats that my company have are very representative of the entire nation. And what I'm saying is if there's 11 and they're projecting it's going to go up to 15%, even as quick as this year, next year, that's a sizable market that if you're not playing in, you are losing 10 to 15% of your business. And then the final piece, which is more specific to my company, is the ability to have exceptions on these programs. Now, every lender comes up with guidelines that you're supposed to meet, and traditionally on a QM product, you either fit the box or you don't. You're in or out. And when you talk to a lot of other lenders, they will often have these non-QM programs, but they're brokering them out. And when you take it to a broker, I will tell you it's rare to none that they will give you an exception to the programs. What I mean by an exception is maybe the credit score is a little below where it needed to be. Maybe they didn't quite have enough money down for the program. Maybe they had one extra late on their credit report that would normally kick them out of the box. In our company, we have 40, and actually this month it's about a 50% approval rate on exceptions. So one of the unique things about my company is the ability to approve loans when a lot of other lenders can't that even offer these products. And then the final piece here is that, these aren't niche borrowers, guys. These are your neighbors, your sphere. This is possibly your next listing. So these are the folks that you're coming across today, and it's a huge opportunity, which is why it's so important for you to understand enough about these programs to know when you need to start thinking about them and getting them to the right lender.